Garreth knew that Agrius could easily get his suggestions acknowledged somewhere else, by someone else. But Agrius only wanted Garreth, and whatever Garreth was prepared to allow for. The idea of someone else touching Agrius literally hurt Gareth's stomach. He opened his eyes and rubbed his hands together with scrub soap, proceeding with scrubbing Agrius's body from the top down. Agrius was not expecting this. The sensation was so strong that he felt his knees weaken. He needed to sit down. He gently brought Garreth down with him to a sitting position against the shower wall. Garreth rubbed his hands over his face and pulled his knees in. Agrius draped his arm around Gareth's shoulder and said,
"Thank you."
Garreth turned his head and kissed Agrius on the lips. It was a sweet kiss.
Do you save your sweet kisses for me?
Agrius asked playfully. Garreth didn't reply, which was as good as confirmation. Agrius laughed and said,
You need to get laid, Weasley. You'll be 30 in just a few years. Waiting for a sports massage every couple of weeks is not healthy.
I'm not waiting,
Garreth said. It wasn't quite a lie, as per the literal definition of the word laid. On occasions, he lay on the bed with a friend, reading a book or just talking. Doing anything with his friends aside from that was just unappealing. Only one person was appealing in this scenario, and that person was Agrius Malfoy. But Gareth's friends were easygoing, and maybe, if he tried, he might find one he'd like to do more than just talk. Someone who could finally put an end to whatever this was. Agrius stood up, turned off the water, and reached a hand out. Garreth rolled his eyes and took it, letting Agrius pull him to his feet. They stood, facing each other, and Garreth watched the water that dripped from Agrius's hair onto his shoulder and down towards his navel. Agrius rested a hand on Gareth's face and tipped his head up. Agrius looked at Garreth fondly, with a little smile on his lips. And then Agrius kissed him.
I have ruined you.
Agrius said when they broke apart.
No one else will do.
Suck my bone,
Replied Garreth in frustration, since Agrius was right.
Make me.
Taunted Agrius with a smirk. Garreth pushed Agrius back against the shower wall and kissed him aggressively. It was always like this, shoving and cursing each other and battling for control, until one or both of them gave in and allowed themselves the release they both craved.
I have to go,
Agrius said. But even as he said it, he was scraping his teeth along Gareth's jaw.
Where to?
Asked Gareth.
Home.
Said Agrius.
Home is where the heart is,
Said Gareth.
Then my home is here.
Agrius winked. They left the shower, hand in hand, feeling like they just won the All-Star game, playing for the same team. Gareth grabbed 2 bottles of fizzing wheeze beer and sat on the sofa. Agrius sat next to him and took the bottle from Gareth's hand. Agrius made a toast.
To us.
to us.
Garreth smiled. They clinked their drinks and downed their bottles.
This tastes good. Can I have some more?
Said Agrius. Agrius was the first person ever to say that the drink that Garreth created back in 5th year was good. Everyone else was put off by the idea of having a drink with insect stings in it. But not Agrius. He was blown away by Gareth's idea of enhancing beer magically. Agrius was so impressed that he told Gareth that the fizzing wheeze beer was the best invention since warm water. This meant the world to Gareth. It meant so much that the words, "I love you," rolled off his tongue.
Well, that's a problem.
Said Agrius.
Do you want that problem to go away?
Asked Gareth.
No, I do not want that problem to ever go away.
Agrius winked. Chapter 1. September 1891. Hogwarts Quidditch Pitch. It was Agrius's 6th year at Hogwarts, although some students would still call him the new 5th year. At least he wasn't being called the Malfoy Squib anymore. This year he was called the Slytherin Captain, since Quidditch had been reinstated and his father had bought the entire Slytherin Quidditch team brand new Nimbus 1900 broomsticks at the start of the term. Everyone knew that Agrius bought his way onto the team. It was the Malfoy way of doing things, after all. He remembered the days where he wouldn't be able to even summon a broom, and he was excited that he could now pull all sorts of broom tricks. He wanted to show the Gryffindors, particularly their captain, Garreth Weasley, that he was up to scratch. There had been much made of the 17-year-old freckled redhead. Agrius was sick of hearing the name, which had caused such a stir in the Quidditch world that even Agrius's father had heard about him. Both Agrius and Garreth were eligible for the Quidditch entry draft, and they were already expected to be the number 1 and 2 overall picks. The expected order of those 2 picks depended on who you asked. Agrius knew his answer. He had never seen Garreth Weasley play Quidditch, but he was already determined to destroy him. He would start by leading the Slytherin team to victory, in front of the entire school. Then he would win in Gareth's home county, Devon. Then he would lead the Slytherin team to win in his very own home county, Wiltshire. And then he would win the Quidditch World Cup. But first, he needed to be number 1 in the draft. No pressure. This was the year of Agrius Malfoy. The moment Quidditch got reinstated, Agrius was expected to burst onto the world stage. No weasel on a hand-me-down broom was going to change that. The Slytherin team arrived at the pitch for their scheduled practice at the tail end of the Gryffindor team. Agrius tried to watch the Gryffindors run drills, but he was told by his coach, Imelda Reyes, to get his arse into the dressing room. The schedule at the Quidditch pitch was very tight. They got on their brooms as soon as the previous team had left. It was a windy day. The actual games would be in the large Quidditch stadium in London. There were a few people sitting in the stands, watching the Slytherin team practice. Some scouts, no doubt, and the few family members who had actually made the trip to the Scottish Highlands, as well as several local hardcore Quidditch fans. Halfway through the practice, Agrius noticed that Garreth Weasley was sitting a few rows above the penalty box, wearing a jersey with the letter G on the front. He was flanked by Professor Weasley and an old redhead man who looked a lot like her, likely her brother. Gareth's mother was probably back home at the pig pen feeding the pigs. Agrius was sure he heard that Gareth lived in a Tudor house with a pig pen on the side.
Care to join us, Malfoy?
Imelda bellowed from above. Agrius turned, embarrassed to find the rest of his teammates huddled around her. Agrius didn't like that the Weasleys were here watching them. Or maybe he did. Maybe the Gryffindor captain was nervous about facing him later at the London Stadium. Maybe the Weasleys felt threatened by a Malfoy. They should. After the practice, Agrius landed and looked at the stands, but the Weasleys were gone. The Ravenclaw team had quickly taken to the pitch for their practice. Agrius shrugged and pressed himself against the wall.
Slytherins are supposed to leave the pitch after their practice,
Gareth said.
What?
Agrius said.
You're not supposed to be here. You're distracting the Ravenclaws.
Gareth pointed at the Ravenclaw team that was now hovering over the pitch. Agrius settled back against the wall and said,
You didn't leave the pitch after your practice. You stayed so that you could distract me, and you brought Professor Weasley with you.